With the release of every Smash Bros. Game comes the anxiety about which characters will or won't make it to the roster. However, Sakurai's proposal to bring everyone into Ultimate has eliminated the latter of the two woes. That just leaves the former point of discussion to divide players, and why not? Anticipation and intrigue keep fans interested during pre-release. Although the point of this video isn't to praise the idea of Enigma codes, I'm here to take a stab at rationalising the disappointment that people have when their favourites don't make it. Generally, character selection comes back to varying factors. Some choices can be obvious and others just come back to how Sakurai's mind works. On the flip side, the character's rejection will often be based on reasons which are beyond the development team's control. Many of these factors can overlap or outright negate each other. One reason to pick a character is to have them represent a series. A representative will usually be the most popular of their specific franchise, hence why Cloud was selected over the likes of Terra or Cecil, who actually appeared in Final Fantasy games on Nintendo consoles. Characters in a series can also be picked to fulfill specific roles. Ganondorf and Zelda come to mind here. Before Melee came out, Sakurai was met with criticism for the lack of female characters and villains in the original game. Ganondorf and Zelda were the most obvious candidates to address the complaints, aside from Bowser and Peach of course. However, including these characters also comes back to two other important factors which are key when getting a place. Zelda partly earned her spot due to the interesting dynamic she had with Sheik. Said dynamic demonstrates Sakurai's preference to create movesets for fighters, if he deems them interesting. This is demonstrated further with the story of how Greninja got into Smash 4. He apparently received concept art of the Pokemon, and created a moveset based on what was workable. Granted, what Sakurai deems interesting also needs to be sensible. The Animal Crossing villager, for instance, wasn't deemed a sensible pick by the creator until the fourth game. This thought process suggests that what Sakurai believes as sensible changes throughout the years. Heck, for all we know, he could end up creating workable movesets from the likes of Waluigi and Bomberman. For Sheik's case, though, she was implemented in a way that was sensible in the context of the character, whilst providing an interesting array of moves for Sakurai to experiment with, due to how she has the appearance of a ninja. Ganondorf, however, comes back to an elephant in the room in terms of character selection, and that is the idea of clones. Being able to cut corners and reskin a fighter provides a way of answering specific fan demands. An obvious example of this being the recent inclusion of Princess Daisy and her similarities with Peach. No research gets cloudy when trying to learn why Ganondorf is a copy of Captain Falcon. After all, Ganondorf was a spell slinger in Ocarina of Time. The most believable fan theories discuss how he had a similar build to Captain Falcon, and he was probably the last character added. In the eyes of Sakurai, clones are a win-win solution, especially when he became more self-aware of this practice as the series went along. While these characters ease production, other attempts at adding fighters have caused many development woes. These woes can relate to hardware, copyright, and specific stages in development. When it comes to hardware issues, my eyes point to the Ice Climbers' absence in the fourth entry. Too many of them in a stadium would have caused the 3DS version to lag, and Sakurai didn't want players of different versions to miss out on specific characters. If Moore's Law is considered, it's doubtful that there will be any cases like the Ice Climbers in the near future. In terms of legal reasons to axe a character, Banjo and Kazooie quickly come into mind. Sakurai himself explained that including them is unlikely for a variety of legal and financial reasons. In other words, having rare characters in is like having Master Chief or Nathan Drake as part of the roster. Smash seems open to some crazy additions, although rival companies probably wouldn't be willing to give away IPs for that one purpose. However, rights over specific IPs can change over time. Who knows? One day we could see the likes of Wanda or Big Daddies in the newest Smash game depending on the circumstances. Lastly, some characters who had a chance may not have made it due to being considered late into development. A good example of this is Star Fox's Crystal. She was meant to be the third character representing the series in Brawl. However, Sakurai needed to create her moveset from scratch, which wasn't possible by the time he was to work on her. By comparison, Wolf was easier to model and had a fair degree of fan demand. Poor Crystal only got noticed in Ultimate, and even then she had to make do as an assist trophy. Wario, however, seemed more fortunate. Sakurai stated that he would have added him into Melee, hadn't there been more time. Thankfully, with the popularity of the WarioWare series during 2008, Wario was able to make it into Brawl. While the WarioWare series wasn't as popular as it was years ago, the character's prominence in the Mario series allowed him to remain relevant in the eyes of the average Smash fan. On the subject of popular franchises, I'd go as far as to say that's the largest incentive for Sakurai to add a fighter. If a sensible character has high demand, then they're more likely to be picked than favourites from somewhat underground franchises. Bayonetta comes to mind here. She was one of the most voted characters in the ballot for Smash 4 DLC. While the series is intended for an older audience compared to the likes of Mario or Kirby, both installments were released for the Wii U by the time she was picked by the ballots. With both games available to Smash fans, there would be enough buzz from them about Bayonetta for Sakurai to take action and include her, even if she was just DLC. Since the series is owned by Platinum Games and was once published by Sega, you're probably thinking that her inclusion contradicts what I said about Banjo. However, Sega was third party by 2009, and Platinum Games had developed the likes of Wonderful 101 and Mad World for Nintendo systems. Rare, on the other hand, is owned by Microsoft, and therefore makes matters more complicated for someone like Banjo or Conker. What I'm getting at here is that, although popularity can act as a golden ticket in most circumstances, technical and legal issues will always act as barriers. Though I can understand that some people would rather see Sakurai experiment with what he can get away with, rather than just add more sword fighters. While many of them don't differ that well from each other, some were more justified as they had interesting fighting styles. More specifically the likes of Shulk's Monado and Cloud's Limit Gauge. This logic of having interesting fighting styles can also be applied if the character seems unorthodox, such as the case for Villager and the Wii Fit Trainer. I know what you're thinking, surely gimmicky characters like Waluigi have recently been left out. However, Sakurai has gone on to state that he likes to have a concrete mould as to how characters should function when working on them. In the case of the Wii Fit Trainer, he pictured yoga as the basis for a moveset. This is probably the largest cause of conflict between Sakurai's and the fanbase's ideas for character inclusion. What could be a realised moveset by the fans wouldn't be by Sakurai, or vice versa. In the end, it comes back to how each person's imagination varies from each other. This is possibly the reason why there are so many dream movesets shared on forums and discords, even if a good bunch of them are just jokes. By the end of the day, though, how a character gets into Smash Bros is complicated, and what should be a free pass is often blocked by various factors, some of which are beyond Sakurai's control. Although a ray of hope for some of the less fortunate potential reps is the fickle nature of the series' director, perhaps one day we could have a character that defies most of the criteria listed here, just because they can. I somehow doubt that I have given you a mindset as to what goes on in the development room, although I hope that I have been able to provide some clarity for a few of the stranger options that have been picked over the years.